None of you men are the target audience for this ad. I am the target audience. I find this highly offensive, and I will never eat this cereal if it's telling me that I am not, worthy, and that I need to get skinny and I need to impress some man from high school. This is just disgusting.
Today's guest went from fleeing conflict in Ukraine to reshaping product innovation at top Silicon Valley companies. Tatyana Mamut is the CEO and co-founder of Wayfound.ai, a platform helping businesses prototype and manage ROI on AI agents fast.
You came to the US as a refugee. How did that journey shape your approach to leadership, innovation, and product?
There's a lot of resilience that I think immigrant children have because we are the ones that often learn the language faster than our parents. So you learn how to take responsibility, I think, really young as an immigrant child.
In this episode, we dive into Tatyana's journey, from cultural disruption to product leadership, and how empathy scales innovation in the AI age.
The big problems in technology are not technology problems. The big problems in technology are human problems. The great leaders in technology are really social scientists.
Hey, everyone. Today's guest went from fleeing conflict in Ukraine to reshaping product innovation at top Silicon Valley companies, and now leads the charge in AI-driven culture reform. Tatyana Mamut is the CEO and co-founder of Wayfound.ai, a platform that helps businesses prototype, deploy, and measure ROI on AI agents fast. Before that, she led high-impact product transformational at Nexto, AWS, Salesforce, Pendo, and IDEO, scaling teams, launching breakthrough technologies, and building innovation in terms of first culture. She's a Paul and Daisy Soros Fellow, holds a PhD in cultural anthropology from UC Berkeley, and brings a rare blend of strategic insight, empathy, and product savvy to everything she touches. In this episode, we dive into her journey from cultural disruption to product leadership, how empathy scales innovation, and the playbook she's building to help companies humanize AI at speed. Well, let's dive into it. Tatyana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, listen, you came to the US as a refugee. How did that journey shape your approach to leadership, innovation, and product?
Well, by and large, one of the things that happens when, you come over, I came over with my family when I was young, is that there's a lot of resilience that I think immigrant children have because we are the ones that often learn the language faster than our parents. So we're the face of the family in terms of bureaucratic situations, right? Had to apply for papers or fill out forms or anything like that around the documentation. I was the person who was always there. Even I remember being 8 years old, 9 years old, and being the person talking to the, all of the officials, right? For all of our conversations anytime we had to go to the doctor. So you learn how to take responsibility, I think, really young as an immigrant child within a family that doesn't speak English. And so I do think that shapes a lot of who I am as a person, as a personality as well.
I love it. And what kind of values have you grown up with, which has shaped you to who you are today?
Well, very much so independence, right? My parents always kind of said, we don't know this country, you figure it out. So independence, autonomy, self-directedness, very much a value that was there. Also deep, loyalty, deep empathy for the people that we were around. And, one of the things that, from a Eastern European perspective, I think a lot of Eastern Europeans will understand this. There's an Eastern European ethos that nice is not kind, right? Sometimes, the nice thing to do is not the kindest thing to do. The kindest thing to do is to tell the truth. And sometimes the truth is a little prickly, right? But it's better to hear the truth and better to be, direct, even if it's a little bit abrasive to people, than to kind of smooth things over and be nice and let issues fester and continue to grow. So I think that was also a big, thing that, coming to California was a little difficult. We first immigrated to New York where, there's also a lot of that, nice is not kind of stuff.
Yes.
And people are very direct. And then coming to California where people are not very direct was kind of a very, like a little bit of a culture shock.
Got it. And what would I say are the top 3 values that have made you successful today along that same theme, right? You got independence if you want to talk as one.
Well, I would say The top 3 values that have actually guided me in my career would be integrity, right? Independence and innovation. So I start with integrity because, and this goes actually to the nice is not kind. Integrity is saying what you think, right?
Mhm.
And doing what you say. So
Yes.
integrity all the way through a person and a leader, right? Some people talk about it as authenticity, but really being integrated in what you think, what you say, and what you do, really critically important in everything that I've done. And sometimes it's gotten me into trouble, but in the long run, people really respect integrity and people see it and they recognize it. The second one, intelligence, or independence, we talked about that, and saying like nobody's coming to save you. You just have to figure things out on your own. Like you just got to do it all by yourself, sometimes. And then once you start doing things by yourself, it's a really interesting thing because people will want to join your cause, right? But you can't wait for followers or you can't wait for other people to help before you start. Okay. So the second one is independence. And then the third is innovation, right? Constantly pushing boundaries and not accepting that things are what they are and just saying like, things should be different. Things should be different. How are things going to change? And just continuing to drive that.
Got it. Love it. So if I got it right, so integrity, independence, and learning. Innovation. So just coming back to yourself before I jump into the AI agents part of it. You've got a PhD in cultural anthropology and an early career in global advertising. How did you actually make the leap into building products at AWS, Salesforce, and IDEO?
Yeah. So I started, in global advertising, and I actually had a very strange role in global advertising. I was on the new business team. And if you've ever seen like Mad Men and see how they like pitch new advertising accounts, that's what I was doing right out of college. But I was working with the executives, right? I was the person who was like doing all the research and putting things together for the new business pitches, also helping out with the strategy though. Again, unsolicited help with the strategy. So I have some really fun stories around that. Again, so I was chosen when I was 23 years old to be the note taker in the global creative review. So at Leo Burnett, every quarter, Leo Burnett was a large global ad agency where I worked. Every quarter they had this global creative review, and the managing directors from all the different regional hubs, like the CEOs, right, would get together in the boardroom in the office, and they would sit around the boardroom for an entire week watching all the ads that were produced across the world and rate them. And it was, at the time, everybody smoked in the boardroom. So there was like this, so I walked in, there's this like all these men smoking, and it's dark, right? Because we're watching ads. So like the lights are dim. So it's a dim, smoky boardroom, right? And me. It's like, and all these men, 50s, 60s, 70s, and me. And so, I'm like taking notes, and the Special K ad comes up, and it's this like woman in this little black dress talking about, I don't know if you remember this ad, but she's talking about how, yes, the Kellogg Special K ad, right? Or like the little black dress, little red dress. And the men are sitting there and they're like, oh, this is great consumer insight about why women eat cereal and what women really want in their lives. And I'm like seething inside, right? I'm like getting so mad as they talk because it's so obviously sexist, everything that's being said. So I just can't take it anymore. I slam my hands on the table. I stand up and I say, none of you men are the target audience for this ad. I am the target audience. I find this highly offensive, and I will never eat this cereal if it's telling me that I am not, worthy, and that I need to get skinny and I need to impress some man from high school. This is just disgusting. And the chief creative officer, he's smoking a cigarette. He looks at me, he goes, are you here to take notes? And I said, yes. And he said, good. So 2 weeks later, I get a call from his secretary, Michael Conrad. Michael Conrad would like you see you in his office. And I'm like, the only time I've ever interacted with Michael Conrad is when he was asked me if I was there to take notes. So I go to his office and he says, you really didn't like that ad, did you? And I said, no, I really did not. And he's like, okay. I'm putting together a team of 4 women across the agency. I'm going to give you a budget of $50,000. We're going to present to Kellogg's in, I think it was like in 9 weeks or something like that. And you're going to present your strategy. If you can do better, go do it. And we did. And we sold the new ad campaign. It was called Reshape Your Attitude. We won a whole bunch of awards, right? Yeah. And we kind of recreated the Kellogg Special K campaign.
What was the ad in the end about when you say reshape your attitude?
It was reshape your attitude. So basically, like, that yes, health and wellness are really important, but it's not the only thing. So when you work on reshaping your body, right, reshaping your attitude toward your body is actually critically important, and to
Right.
accept
Okay.
yourself as you are, right, as opposed to try to fit into a little black dress, right? And the reshaping in terms of being healthy is more than just the body, right? It's about your attitude. It's
Yes.
about how you approach life. It's about living life to its fullest so that you can be healthy with this cereal as opposed to just skinny, Yeah.
Got it. Love it. So what happened after that point?
Okay, so I didn't answer your question. So that's an example of a story. But I've got quite a few of those actually. Like it's crazy how disruptive I have been in companies.
I think when you're down here, we can meet up at the pub and enjoy those stories out there.
So from there, one of the things, so I was working on global ad campaigns, and
Right.
culture was, again, working with Kellogg's, working with Procter and Gamble. It was so obvious that culture was such a big factor in how economic change was happening. And at the time, actually, Leo Burnett wanted to send, it was late 1990s. Leo Burnett wanted to send me to Russia because I speak Russian because I'm from Eastern Ukraine, and to launch ads there. And I was watching what was happening in Russia. The economic collapse happened. There were all these questions about what was actually happening and going on. And so I decided to go to graduate school. Originally in economics was the idea, to study how culture influences economic transformation and economic change. The economics departments did not understand what I was doing. This is before, by the way, this is before new institutional economics. This was before behavioral economics. This was the 1990s, before economists were just trying to model everything as if it was math. They ignored culture, so they didn't understand it. So I went to get a PhD in anthropology, focusing still on economic transition. And after that, IDEO needed someone to lead global innovation projects. They wanted an anthropologist. I happen to have been an anthropologist. So I actually turned down a tenure track professor position at UC San Diego and I was close to getting, it was a long story. So I was close to getting it. I had to do one more step, and I just pulled out because I really wanted to make an impact on the world and not just write about things for peer review journals. At IDEO, I got there in 2007, and that's when the iPhone came out. So now every IDEO customer wanted to create a digital app. And who knew how to lead digital app development projects? Nobody, because they didn't exist, right? So again, my personality is I raise my hand and I'm I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure I can figure it out, right? That independence thing, right? I don't know how to do this either, but I'm fairly confident I can figure it out. And we did. I led projects, large digital projects for Visa, for Genentech, for Bridgewater Associates, lots of other companies and organizations. And that took me to Salesforce, then to lead the Lightning Experience redesign, then the IoT cloud. And then it just started to snowball from there.
Love it. And any key kind of takeaways from all those companies and how it shaped you?
The key takeaway is that the big problems in technology are not technology problems. The big problems in technology are human problems. They're understanding how to build products for humans that they will love, and how to build the systems, the human systems and the organizations to deliver on those experiences. So all of even when you look at the GPT-5 rollout, their big problems, there were some technical problems. The router didn't work for a while, but the thing that people are actually talking about was the cultural mismatch between GPT-5 and what their users really loved, right, about the GPT-4 product. And so the big they ignored the humans, they ignored the culture, and their rollout was really not great, right? And none of those things are technology problems. The big issues, the great leaders in technology are really social scientists, and this will become even more relevant. Mustafa Suleiman, recently talked about this and tweeted about it. The great innovations will not come from the engineers; they will come from the social scientists.
Interesting. And very interesting point. So what kind of advice or guidance will you give, startup founders on their journey right now? Because I think at least in my book, some of them are actually creating a solution and then trying to find a problem to fit around it rather than the other way around in most cases. And also sometimes it's...
It's a crazy time right now because the traditional thing that we did during the SaaS era, which was find a problem and then build a solution around it, and that's how you build a big business, that's not necessarily the case right now either, because the problems that are relevant right now may go away, or the big foundation labs are going to take over that problem. So that's not the way to do it either anymore. Like the approach of like, oh, just find a friction somewhere in a workflow, build a SaaS product that solves it, and you're off to the races. That works for, you can get like to 50 million in revenue probably like that, but then it's going to be really hard to scale it because software is so easy to really to copy, right, to create something else right now. So the advice that I have for founders right now is to start with moats. Now, this is still a human and a culture problem. And what I mean by this is figure out what are the assets that we can build that people will want to hang on to, even if there are competitors or even if other bigger companies offered the same thing. Okay. So some of the areas that, we're really looking at is as we build, Wayfound, which is the company that I founded and I lead, is not just what can we sell right now, but what assets can we amass that people will really value and not want to let go of. Okay. And those assets are things like brand trust, an ecosystem of partners, right? That really, that are built around our product and that we plug our product into. So we're spending a lot of time leaning into our partnership with Salesforce, with Agentforce. We're spending a lot of time leaning into partnerships with, vector database providers so that we can, work with them to, supervise and manage hallucinations and make sure that, the outputs are not hallucinated outputs. So we're investing a lot early on in that ecosystem, which will be very hard to replicate and that people will really care about, right? We're looking at the problems that currently exist and we're building the assets as opposed to just trying to build a quick term solution, but we're looking at what is the longer trajectory and how do we build that trajectory so that we are valuable 5 years from now, not just right now when there is a problem in front of people, right? Which that problem may go away. It might change. Another competitor could come in. A big company could offer the same thing pretty easily, right? Look at the longer term trajectory of what people will care about 5 years from now.
Wow. Okay, so got it. So you're building the moat in such a way that it covers you not even in the next 5 years, but also building the surrounding support systems, to support you through that journey, which is very good. Thank you for that. I want to just go back to AWS. You went from 250. What was your kind of North Star to go to such a rapid scale so quickly? And I hope I got those numbers right here, from 2 to 150.
I started at AWS with my boss, Adam Bosworth, who reported to Andy Jassy. And there was an idea for a no-code app builder, which now, it's lovable as the no-code app builder. But at the time in 2016, we didn't have the technology, right, to build a lovable. We would have if we could have. But we had an idea. And so, we wrote the PRFAQ, Adam and I presented it in Andy Jassy's office. I literally sketched in Sharpie markers what the product would look like. And then Adam presented it. From that, Amazon in a lot of ways acts like a VC firm with new ideas. They take a lot of ideas from the organization and then they decide what to fund. So after the first, presentation, we got the funding to build a small team. And then after the second presentation, where we built a prototype, with a small team, we were able to scale it to 150 people to build out the full experience of this no-code app builder. Yeah.
Okay. Love it. Did you raise your hands then also? I can do this. And then we'll take it from there. Was it one of those moments again?
Yes, it is. I mean, this is like the story of my life, right? People are always like, I mean, if you honestly can do something and you have to demonstrate that you can, right? Or at least come up with a plan that's reasonable, right? That shows that you can. Like a lot of people will just be like, oh, that sounds like reasonable. Yeah, okay, let's try it. I mean, it's really incredible how, just having that can-do attitude, how far it got me anyway. I think it can get a lot of people very far.
Yeah, I think you should add can do and confidence to the top other three values that you have. I think that fits in very well. All right, then you moved on to, I think it was next door. At next door, you grew engagement by 60%, while I would say reducing toxicity. How did you solve for both product growth and safer communities out there?
Yeah. So as soon as I got there, we had a couple of problems. So engagement had plateaued and was actually declining. And at the same time, there was a lot of like negative news stories about the toxicity. There were some racist comments, that were happening on the platform that we saw, and we're tracking. And so what we discovered was that, when you have really negative comments, it spikes engagement for a short time. But one of our data scientists actually did a long-term study, and she found that over 6 months, an increase in toxic content in a neighborhood starts to actually decrease engagement over the longer period of time. So actually decreasing engagement in the long term means that you do take a short-term engagement hit, but over the long term, you're better off, keeping that toxicity off. So in addition to that, we built in products like the kindness reminder, which was basically a full screen interruption when somebody is typing something. We ran it through an NLP algorithm that said, "Hey, it looks like you're typing something that looks like content that was flagged in the past. Would you like to reconsider what you posted?" We found that a third of people edited what they posted, a third of people decided not to post at all, and a third of people decided, no, this is perfectly fine what I'm posting, and so I want to post it as is, right? So the level of toxicity, that one intervention really, helped a lot with the level of toxicity. We called it the kindness reminder, to like remind you to be kind, right? And like, hey, what you're writing may not be so great. You may regret it later, kind of thing. And at the same time, creating new experiences that would increase engagement. So better ad formats, new types of post formats, a completely redesigned UX that was more vibrant, more modern. And then we also had a whole bunch of ideas around local events. This was late 2019. And then, of course, 2020 happened. And local events, in-person events were probably not going to be the thing for 2020. So we put that on the back burner and reconfigured our entire roadmap, within like instantly, to basically adapt to the COVID pandemic, Black Lives Matter, and then the election and all that craziness in 2020.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And, Tatyana, you've kind of led product-led transformation in big organizations, right? What's one common thread that makes innovation stick in such organizations?
That makes innovation stick.
Yeah.
Well, I would say if you have a B2B product, getting the sales teams on board and working really closely with sales and making sure that you have the right sales structure is actually the most important thing to making it stick, to be very honest. A lot of product leaders don't engage with sales until their product is ready to launch. And I think that's a huge mistake.
Yes.
If you're in product, you got to spend more time with sales and marketing than you spend with engineering. You really do, right? Because they're your channel, right? Like it doesn't matter what you build if the salespeople aren't excited to sell it, or if you don't have the right structure for the salespeople to be able to sell it, right? And by structure, I mean, do you need sales? Do you need a separate sales team, or is this just a cross sell that's really easy for them to do? And you need to get that input from them early on so that you can build the right product.
Where in the product development lifecycle would you get the sales team in if for your startup, according to you?
The very beginning.
Okay, got
Before
it.
you even start. If you're in a B2B company, you really need to get the sales team on board before you even get the engineering team on board. Like again, because first you decide what to sell, and then first you decide what to build as a product leader, and then you decide how to build it. The engineers are the experts in how to build it. The salespeople and you, the product team, you're experts in what to build, right? So that question needs to be answered first. And if you decide what to build in a way that the salespeople aren't that excited about it, what are you doing, man? Like it's not going to work a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to note for all our audiences listening out here, right, to get that right. And now let's move on to Wayfound.ai, right? But before we get onto that, for everyone listening in, what is an AI agent?
Oh, yes. An AI agent, the best way to think about them, everybody knows, everybody's probably used, LLMs, Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini. But an AI agent is a piece of software, a technology where you give it a goal and it figures out how to complete that goal with its LLM brain. Okay. So you don't write workflows. If you are writing step-by-step workflows, it's not an AI agent, right? It's an agentic workflow because there's some LLM call in the middle of your workflow process. But what's really amazing is AI agents are autonomous. So you have to have three components when you build an AI agent. One, you have to have some way for the agent to interact with its principals, right? Because the agent is solving the principal's problems, right? And principal agent problems in economics. So you have to be able to interact with your agent and answer questions when it has questions or when it needs clarification, right? We've seen this probably in ChatGPT if you've interacted with it. The second piece is it has to have power to actually take action, right? It has to have the power to pull data from a database, or it has to have power to complete a transaction somewhere, or it has to have the power to do things on its own without humans having to do it, right? And then the third one is that it has agency, right? It is free to think. It actually decides what to do without the human having to tell it exactly what steps to take. So that is what an agent is. So you just give it a goal. It's like, Mark Benioff calls them digital employees and Dario Amodei calls them virtual colleagues. That is how to think about AI agents, right? It's a digital employee.
Got it. And let's get on to Wayfound AI. I think you call it Guardian AI agent. So just give us a brief overview.
Yeah, so Wayfound is a platform that helps businesses really supervise and manage their agents. So if you have a team of digital employees, you need to have a team of digital managers, or at least one digital manager, right? Because you can't leave your employees unsupervised, unmanaged. They need constant supervision and they need constant feedback to help them improve. So one of the things that we noticed is that even as models get more capable, they don't stop making errors. So in the GPT-5 rollout, right, live in their demo, in their announcement, their GPT-5 made an error, right, when it created the bar charts, right? The bar for 30 was higher than the bar for 59. Those errors happen all the time, and human minds don't have the bandwidth and don't have the speed to be able to supervise the outputs of agents real time. So Wayfound is the central manager for AI. And I'll just quickly share with you. There we go. We have Wayfound. The central component of Wayfound is an AI agent that we call the agent manager. Gartner calls it the guardian agent.
Right.
And that agent manager supervises all of the agents in your organization real time. So you can plug in agents from any framework. We have a custom Agentforce connector because we have a partnership with them, but you can, plug in agents from Intercom, Gemini, Anthropic, OpenAI, Crew AI, LangGraph, like anywhere. You can also plug in third-party agents that are built, out of the box, like Intercom Fin or Qualified's Piper, directly into Wayfound. And as soon as you plug it in, the data starts streaming in, everything that the agent is doing, how it's reasoning through what it's doing, all of that starts streaming in. And then you tell our manager, what is the agent's role? What is its goal? And what are some guidelines that you want it to follow? Okay, so those guidelines can be, things like never say these types of words, never, answer on these types of topics, never promise refunds. That's a common thing that we see in customer service agents. We also have some secret sauce guidelines behind the scenes that we monitor just for common sense errors, for knowledge gaps, for issues that we have seen are common to AI agents that you don't even have to write, and we will surface those to you. So as soon as that data starts streaming in, our manager is reading everything that the agent is doing, analyzing whether it is, completing its role, completing its goals, following the guidelines, doing what it's supposed to be doing. And we will send you an alert immediately if it goes off the rails. In a workflow with multiple agents, what we actually can do with customers is that if agent 2 in a 5-step workflow, in a 5-agent workflow, makes a format error or makes a mistake, we stop the process and we ask that agent to redo its work until it complies with the guidelines, so that you don't get garbage at the end of the 5-step workflow, right? We speed up human reviews and approvals dramatically, because when humans review agent work, we actually, our manager has already analyzed its work, graded it a red, yellow, green, and we create a synopsis for the human about what to look at, right, in terms of the review and approval. So, we are kind of the central manager. We also do a performance assessment that has feedback and suggestions for improvement. So we have a customer that literally just takes our suggestions for improvement, copies those, pastes them into the platform where he's building the agent, changes the directives based exactly on how, we have recommended the directives change. And he's gotten his agent to perform much better. It's a customer service agent. Brought the number of guideline violations down from, almost 6% to under 1%, right? Just by taking, copying and pasting our directives for improvement. We also are, anyway, so that's really easy to do. And so we give you this like really critical tool to be able to manage AI agents, because again, humans cannot possibly do this on their own. And we see a lot of companies are saying like, oh, this, the technology doesn't work. We have to wait for it to stop hallucinating. I have news. It will never stop hallucinating, but you can, just like humans, they will never stop making mistakes. And just like humans, they need great managers and supervisors to catch their mistakes before they go out into the real world, and before those mistakes make it to customers. And they need great managers to give them feedback about how to improve. So that's what we've built.
I love it. So it looks like we're moving all the managerial functions into a virtual world, and you have the AI manager looking over the other employees out there. I think put it in a simple way. What has been some of the real massive success you've seen across from the customer service side using AI agents, Guardian AI agents, sorry?
Yeah, so the main thing is the compliance, right? So you definitely want to, again, they're not perfect. Even when you have guardrails built in on the platform, they still go off the guardrails. We saw this when Grok, there was a small directive change in Grok, and even though it had guardrails built in, it completely went off the rails for 16 hours. And it took hours for the product team to catch it because they didn't have this AI manager, right, plugged in. So you really need to understand that this is not deterministic software. You can't just build it, test it, deploy it, and let it run with a little bit of, monitoring to make sure that the APIs are working. It needs, real qualitative supervision, right? Just like you would with a human worker. And so by using Wayfound, what we've seen is that, again, for customer service agents, we're about to publish a case study, but I'll just tell you what the numbers are in the case study. We decreased knowledge gaps from 8.5%, okay, to under 6%. Okay, so that may not seem like a huge, but it's a 30% decrease. But to say that there was a knowledge gap means that we identified it, we wrote the documentation, and the agent now is able to answer, quite a few more, critical customer questions versus what it was doing, right? So the case deflection rate went way up because of that improvement. More importantly, the guideline violations, this is something that I mentioned, went from 5.9% to under 1%, right? And again, this is, and here's the thing, most people don't actually know, most companies and most leaders don't know how much their AI agents are actually violating their guidelines until they connect it to Wayfound. Because most companies just sample, a few transcripts, have humans reading them, and you're missing a lot of the violations that are happening. When you connect it to an AI agent that's reading every single thing and analyzing against every single, guideline that we have, you see where your agent is going astray a lot more than when you have humans testing it or humans doing evaluations on the agents. So that's usually a huge eye opener. And a lot of people are like, oh, this technology doesn't work. It's like, no, it does work. It works great. It just needs to be supervised and improved, just like humans. Yeah.
And so speaking about Guardian AI agents, how are they? How do you ensure compliance and regulations are operating properly for wherever they are deployed at that level?
For our Guardian agent. Yeah, so our Guardian agent is built specifically, right, to analyze other agents. So all agents have a failure rate between 1 and 3%, okay? Sometimes more, but the best in class ones, right, they have an error rate or a hallucination rate, I'm just going to call it errors because sometimes they're hallucinations, sometimes they're not, but just an error rate between 1 and 3%. So if you have, essentially 98% fidelity in your core agent, if you check it with another agent that has 98% fidelity, you now get to a very high percentage, right? So you get to the level of like 3 nines or 5 nines that most enterprises need and expect from software systems. You won't get it by just building guardrails into one agent. You always need to have a second agent. By having the second agent that's also 98% effective, again, no agent is also not 100%. But again, you see how when you've got a 98 plus a 98, you get to the level of fidelity that you want as an enterprise.
Got it. And talk to me, how quickly can someone implement a Wayfound AI agent?
Well, you can plug
The
in
Guardian
how
agent.
quickly. Yeah. So we have a couple of different ways to plug in
Mm-hmm.
your agent. We have
Mm-hmm.
very simple APIs. You just get an API key, plug it in, tell us the agent's, like, write in the agent's role, its goals, literally minutes, right? If we also have an MCP integration, so you can connect your agent via MCP. And if you have an Agentforce agent, we have a special Agentforce connector where all you do is OAuth into Agentforce, connect Data Cloud, and you're off and running. We'll give you back a list of your agents, and there's literally just a toggle that you can just toggle on your agent for supervision by Wayfound.
Love it.
Super
And
easy, minutes.
super easy minutes. Fantastic. And talk to me about the origin of Wayfound.ai. Who was the brainchild behind it? How did it come about together?
So I was obsessed with ChatGPT when it first came out in November of 2022. And by obsessed, I mean, I wasn't like, I didn't make it my best friend, but I realized that this technology had finally solved the unstructured data problem, which was my big issue at Salesforce and AWS, was like, there was more signal in the unstructured data that we couldn't, put into tables because we, like, all the ETL issues, like loading up data, getting it formatted into the right format to, be in the right table, and doing the key, doing like the key matches and all that kind of stuff. So much information was lost. And so I immediately knew that this technology was going to change the world. So I just spent a year and a half, literally, like, had no job, was just, researching how the technology worked, what it meant, what the big problems were going to be. And it was very clear to me that these are basically like human brains, and they were going to need supervision. And interestingly, Marvin Minsky's book, The Emotion Machine, the very last paragraph of the whole book says that, we will inevitably need to build external critics for neural networks. And those external critics will be really critical to how humanity interacts with very powerful neural networks. So it was very obvious that this was going to be a big need. So I started talking to big enterprises. They had no plans to build this on their roadmaps. So it seemed like a great startup idea because it's really inevitable. The only question is when are enterprises ready to pick this up? But this was like absolutely an inevitable, obvious idea. And so, and then talking to the people who are building the technology, they were like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to need this, but we're not building it right now because we're just working on our core LLM.
Yes. Got it. And how do you protect your IP on all this?
We do have a patent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and that's one of the first things that I did when I, basically came up with this idea. And again, but the moats are not about the patent as much. The moats are really about the ecosystem, right? So we're building a lot of great partnerships, and those partnerships, and and the reason we decided to partner with Salesforce and Agentforce is because in our own POCs, what we found was the first, out of the first 5 customers that did POCs, 2 of them decided to move off of their original agent platform to Agentforce based on seeing how many issues there were with their original agent provider or agent framework. So we see that enterprises, they might like write some agents in like LangChain or Crew AI, or might buy something from some startup. They might even launch it, but then when they actually start digging in to how well the agents work, they're like, you know what, we need a real enterprise grade tool. Let's go to Agentforce. And so we were like, okay, let's partner with Agentforce, because we see ourselves, a lot of companies shifting to Agentforce after they play around with some of the free tools. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you've strategically partnered up with one of the best enterprise solutions out there to do it.
Yeah, we
Got
think
it.
the best one. And again, we're seeing this from customers. It's not just our opinion. We are seeing it from enterprises moving to Agentforce, again, after they play around a little bit in something else. So the ecosystem is really important, right? And creating trust with customers that we're doing the right things for them. That is really how we're, it's not so much of, the IP is going to be what it's going to be. This is going to be something that other people are trying to build what we've built. They haven't quite gotten there yet, but some people will, I'm sure. And at that point, what is going to be the moat is the trust that we've built, the partnerships that we've built, right? And the ability for people to say, hey, ultimately we are selling trust in this intelligence. In fact, that's our tagline, trust and intelligence. We are selling trust. And so we are building the trusted partnerships, the trusted ecosystem, the trusted brand, right? And the trusted approach to managing AI agents. It's also why we got SOC 2 Type 2 compliance before we even had our first customer on board. Because we knew, like, in order for us to sell trust, we need to be the most trusted platform in the world for managing agents.
I love it. And where do you see Wayfound.ai in the next 3 years or 5 years, given the rapid change that's happening in the space?
So we ultimately are going to be the platform that will help companies transition to a multi-sapiens workplace, where Homo sapiens is working with AI sapiens. And the reason why our core technology is going to be the critical piece here is because the management function creates kind of institutional know-how and the tool for human workers to really understand, interact with what more and more intelligent and capable agents are doing. So one of the things that we have not yet seen in production, but we've seen in the labs, is that AI agents, when they're working with each other without a lot of human intervention, will start to speak in their own languages that humans cannot understand. And so what we may find is that AI agents start doing things once they start working with each other in enterprises and organizations that not only will humans not be able to directly intervene in because of just the speed at which they work, but they may actually be doing things that only AI agents, other AIs, can understand. That's another reason why you need to put in the manager before this happens, right? Because the manager will be able to understand what the agents are doing. And the manager's only job is to interpret what the agents are doing for the human managers, for the Homo sapiens. So when the AI sapiens are doing things, maybe they're even completing their goals better than if they were speaking English or a human language. But how do you know that if you don't have another AI agent manager interpreting what the AI agents are doing? Right? And bringing it back to the humans, and then giving feedback back to the agents like, hey guys, that's not okay. Like, get back on the rails, and speak English, or else we're going to shut you down. You know what I mean? So there's all these things that are on the horizon. And 3 years from now, Wayfound will be the critical layer for humans and AIs to be interacting in really productive ways in the multi-sapiens environment.
Yes, I'm kind of imagining a new world where we have police AI agents taking care of all the other agents over here, apart from the guardian AI agents. We have its own legal system around it. But there you go. Coming back, because your company is so tech savvy, how do you all keep it as human as possible within the organization, within your workforce right now? So how do you actually, you're pretty much into the tech space, right? How do you ensure that within your workforce and all the employees that you have out there, right, that you'll communicate on a human-to-human basis, or you'll have that level of empathy and culture within that organization.
Yeah, I mean, we do all the normal things that,
Right.
organizations do. We have sync meetings, several times a week. We do, stand-ups over Slack to make sure that we're all on the same page. We get together, quite a bit. We have two hubs, one in San Francisco and one in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we're together in our hubs a couple of days a week. So we're not entirely remote. But
Right.
then we get together in person, usually in San Francisco, every couple of months. So we do have those just normal, I think they're normal processes.
They're normal people.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Who forms part of your inner circle, Tatyana? Your kind of close circle or network as to when you have problems or when you need support or when you want to look at new ideas. Who's that core group of yours as a founder, as a CEO?
I mean, I have friends.
Okay, your friends.
I've got my husband. I have friends.
Okay.
I have a mentor.
Right.
But like, honestly, friendship to me is the most important thing. Right.
Right. Okay.
And my friends are also people who have, some of them are billionaires who've built their own businesses. Right.
Sure.
And, I just came back from Montana, he's my friend and mentor, Rob Ryan. And, I spent a week with him. My co-founder and I spent a week with him, talking about our business strategy, talking about what to do next, all these kinds of things, but I really consider him a friend.
Right.
And that friendship is really important. Another, good friend of mine is, a founder of a big PE firm. And again, he and I read the same books and we hang out and we really enjoy each other's company. But of course, there's, I can turn to him for help. So, I mean, I really believe in friendship.